Learn Knight, Game 2, Goro versus Tythorr. The aforementioned player in the top, our light blue Zerg, it is Tythorr. And his opponent in the bottom middle of the map is our Protoss player sporting the green Goro. So Goro has just been subjected to a 6 pool. And Tythorr was saying that he felt guilty about it, so I don't think he's going to do it again, even though it would probably win. I give him massive props for that. Like, the original purpose of the show matches when we constructed them was really to give players a context for practicing on the ladder. And I like the idea that he's not just going to run his opponent over with something that he knows his opponent needs to work on. Just give him the option to learn a little bit more in the show match. I give him massive props for that, but at the same time, I probably would have just 6-pulled again myself. Then again, maybe it's because I approach show matches kind of like from the perspective of having watched a lot of Korean show matches, which is if they sense blood in the water, they go for it. Anyway, we have a probe moving across the map fairly quickly here. A pylon on the high ground, which is usually a good setup for a gateway wall off, so we might be looking to see that now. He's going to run up here to check for the spawning pool yet again. This is understandable move given what happened last time. He's going to see the number of drones, and even without seeing the pool, that should be enough to let him know that this area here we're looking at a typical expansion play. We're not looking at a spawning pool. He's running down with a drone, making actually no attempt to block the drone's ability to put down the hatchery. So the hatchery goes down at 2 minutes and 8 seconds. And that pretty much is the early our kind of early game interaction between the Zerg and the Protoss right there. Tythorr making a note that this is so politeness. Very nice. Much pylon. Tythorr has no idea what's happening. And, like, I gotta say, this is probably not the most ideal place to do a cannon rush from. Usually you'll see people go back here just because it's really easy to lock this location down with pylons and cannons. But the thing is, if you get enough pylons and cannons up in this region without your opponent knowing it, and he's not suspecting a thing, then it's going to work anyway. 2 cannons coming out here, and I think that these 2 players are going to be establishing some feelings, I think, about each other for the next match. It's gonna be a little bit. Oh yeah, I think the probe actually just wandered within vision range of the hatchery. The hatchery is actually just about to finish. There's going to be a couple shots hitting it, and is Tythorr going to let this finish, or is he going to cancel it? He does cancel it. He saves most of the money, even gets the drone away, and now this area is pretty much locked down with pylons and cannons for a short period of time. And you can see Tythorr right now going immediately into a Roach Warren, and I'm thinking we're going to see an army move out here off of one base. In the meantime, back home, Goro has not started anything else yet. No Nexus. There we go. There's the gateway. And he's gonna. Looks like he's just gonna try and move the way up, move his way up the up the tech tree. Tythorr reversing his previous opinion of so politeness. Going, much rudeness. But yeah, this is something you gotta expect, and when you cheese somebody, they very well may just cheese you back. And he's probably gonna check up on the high ground. He's gonna see a spine crawler right there. He's not gonna be able to get any more scouting done. In fact, he's going to get annihilated, so that's the end of that. These pylons can actually present a very large problem for Tythorr as time goes on. If they stay there for too long, Goro can actually just push his way up into a gateway attack and warp in right there in the natural. Thing is, I'm fairly certain that if he actually does go into a decent number of roaches right off the bat here, he should be able to just push this down and crush it, and it's going to probably really badly supply block Goro when it happens. Meantime, it looks as if Goro is just going to follow this up with a Nexus and try to get ahead on economy, since he knows that his Zerg player friend doesn't have a second base right now, or at least strongly suspects that he doesn't. We'll note that he's not checking around the map for a hidden expansion anywhere. Not that I can really blame him for that, but such things are always possible in the realm of StarCraft. Oh, Infestation Pit. Looks like he's going to go into some really hardcore one-base tech here. It's not just simple roaches. We're going to be looking at just a few for some potential defense if he needs it. And maybe Swarm Hosts, maybe Infestors. Maybe he's going to go one-base Ultra. I don't know. He has been channeling the spirit of Anizarg for some time, apparently. So, who knows? He's actually going to start working on the back rocks, so he wants to expand. He actually wants to move out away from the cannons. maybe using these as a way for the Protoss to think that the Zerg has actually been locked in his base when he hasn't. An interesting move, kind of similar to the effect of getting a ninja expansion, but it doesn't change a certain reality, and that is that Goro is going to have this expansion up, and he's going to have it up for a long time before the Zerg even gets another base. Swarm hosts. You know what's good against cannons, guys? Free units. You know what's good against things that aren't free, guys? Free units. I think I like Tythor's thinking on this one. This actually could work out fairly well here. Not to mention that, for now at least, his opponent's going to have no way of dealing with this. He doesn't have any mobile detection. He only has the cannons for detection, which means that his army will never be able to engage the swarm host directly. So this is a very good move on his part. It looks like he's trying to set up to take that back expansion, and honestly, like, this is going to take such a long time to break down that he's still going to be behind economically, but not revealing the swarm host just yet. Ah, very good move, very good move. Holding those back until he can get their numbers up a little bit higher. Goro is beginning to suspect that his opponent may try to get around in order to expand. This probe is going to run around the back. I doubt he's coming back here to hide a pylon. He's going to run right over here and say, hey, what are you doing? Hi there. It's a nice piece of rock you're breaking down. It would be a shame if somebody saw you doing it, wouldn't it? And the probe's like, okay, whatever. Meanwhile, this cannon is fighting a war with things that it can't kill. It's unfortunate. Cannon's going to die eventually. Meanwhile, back in Goro's base, having seen the presence of swarm hosts, he's grabbing a couple more gateways. An upgrade that's just about to finish, and probably see him go up into Robotech from here. You really, if you see your opponent going for swarm hosts, you basically need one of two things. You need to get lucky and hit the swarm host with blink stalkers, or you need like 6 Colossus. And it is roughly about 6 Colossus. It's a lot. If he doesn't go either of those two routes, he can go air toss, but that tends to have difficulties actually building up enough units to where it can really roll over a Hydra Ball, which is usually something that ends up appearing along with the Swarm Host. At the moment, though, it seems that Tythorr has actually no interest in doing that. He seems to be just researching more Roach Tech, and yes, the flying army seems to be the choice from Goro here. Maybe Void Rays, it's a very solid choice, having not seen any Hydras yet on the map. Their effectiveness is pretty much going to be, can he hide them until he hits about 6 to 9. If he can hit that number without the Zerg having scouted them just yet, without having the appropriate defenses, he'll be able to roll his opponent over fairly nicely. In the meantime, however, this lockdown is going to be completely blown out of the water, and he actually does have enough pylons to not get supply blocks when these two inevitably die. Still not rallying them down. Oh, he is rallying them down there. They just spawned it there for some reason. Well, in the meantime, looks like the Protoss is considering expanding to his own back third. Normally this is not considered a very efficient move just because of how long it takes to do it. But knowing that your opponent has basically only just now gotten his natural up, this is a completely reasonable move. In fact, I think it's really good, just because it's going to be a lot easier to defend than any of these two farther thirds. So the one here or the one here. Not a bad move. And it seems for the moment, Tythorr is actually just positioning, I think, to take this third, spreading his creep. This is actually another problem with this setup right now, is the Queens can't maneuver too well between these two bases. And oh, Phoenixes. So not the Void Rays, but the Phoenixes. This is a good choice. It's always very difficult, though. This is a very real way for Goro to actually fall behind in this game, and that is if he does not micro the Phoenixes well. Phoenixes are a unit which, if microed properly, will take a player with a lot of APM and allow them to dish out a lot of damage without taking damage in return. For a low APM player or a normal player, such as myself, Phoenixes are just usually a good way to lose a lot of gas really quickly. So we'll see if Goro's channeling me or channeling Hero right now, because I can tell you which one he should be channeling. It's definitely not me. Anyway, for the moment, we see that the Phoenixes are now setting themselves up in the corner of the base here. I think the Zerg has seen that. It's like, I guess I should make Spore Crawlers now, and in the meantime, Goro's going to just basically kill whatever he can find. First goes one Overlord, second goes the next Overlord, third is probably going to be that Queen. Up goes the Queen. Down goes its health. I don't know if he has enough to actually kill it before it drops it. Not paying attention to the Phoenixes. Yep, there you go. Finishes him off. Welcome Nomads. Good to see you here tonight. Right now we have a PvZ between two silver players. We're looking at Goro versus Tythorr. Tythorr won the first match with a 6 pool. Goro has used a Cannon Rush to cancel the natural of the Zerg, and has kind of basically worked its way into what appears to be something resembling a macro game involving Swarm hosts. Quick. So, this is turning into a fairly interesting situation overall, and I gotta say, Goro is definitely channeling more hero than myself at the moment, as his Phoenixes are actually getting a lot of damage done, and he hasn't lost any of them just yet. Good work on his part. Unfortunately, you'll notice back in the space back here, we do have this one observer is actually nowhere near. Never mind, 3 Void Rays are about to come out. I'm pretty sure he can handle these guys just fine. It's going to be a question of whether or not he manages to tell his units to do it, really. In other words, control. Control, control, control. It all comes down to that. Here come the Phoenixes actually running back toward the army. There's no anti-air here, so they're just going to see the Overseers, and they actually can just kill the Overseers. They can straight up kill the detection. Or they can just walk right on by. This is what I meant, guys. It comes down to your APM. If you can't keep your eyeballs on those Phoenixes all the time, you just miss opportunities, and there's nothing you can do to stop that. So Locusts are still kind of out of range of the building, so they're going to get into just within range and maybe tag the shields a little bit. Doesn't really do a whole lot there. This Overseer is just running across the front of the base, getting a good look on everything. Doesn't really need to do that because there's actually an Overlord there right at the moment. Loses the Overseer. Ouch. Could have actually accomplished a lot of that really with a Changeling, but that's okay. Locust still not moving up any closer to the base. Guess he wants to keep himself in a safe position for the meantime. Hydra Den is down for Tythorr. I don't think he's actually made... No, excuse me, I don't think he's actually made any Hydras yet with that. He's gonna need some anti-air to buffer for this army, though, because this Guy Toss army of Goro here isn't really getting any smaller. We've got a bunch of Void Rays joining up with these Phoenixes here. There's a lot of Stalkers and Zealots, but I can, pretty understandable that the Protoss player doesn't want to engage into this. Swarm hosts, when you're not used to dealing with them, are very, very, very scary. And 1 or 2 tiny little mistakes can basically result in your entire ground army being annihilated. And nobody wants to experience that. And for the meantime, at least, the Swarm hosts are nowhere near close enough that he actually has to respond. So it seems that Goro's just going to be content to say, hey, okay, fine. You want to just ineffectually attack me over and over again? That's cool. I'm going to build up a big army while you do that. In the meantime, here's a proxy pylon and a random stalker that just happens to be hanging out here with a roach and a queen. Fierce micro battle going on down here. The queen's definitely going to go down. Drone pulled off the line for a moment to actually help deal with this. The roach is going to be able to finish off the zealot. He needs some help in order to finish off the stalker, but that's going to happen. And down goes little Protoss harassment. A few Hydralisks actually coming out right now. Spawned. Once again, the Swarm hosts are actually just out of range from being able to attack, which is quite unfortunate. No charge upgrades yet on the Zealots here. Doesn't look as if he's actually been researching that or anything. Gotta say, I'm actually not a... I'm a fan of the move. I'm a fan of getting the Zealot upgrades in a game with Swarm hosts, only because it makes the harassment a ton more effective, and harassment against the Swarm host player is extremely important. And it seems like Goro has wrapped his mind around that concept. He's actually running up here, and again, not watching the Phoenixes means you miss opportunities, so those 2 Overlords have been able to survive this day, but these 2 Overlords will not be so lucky. Perhaps even that 3rd one right there. Now this is actually getting close to supply blocking Tythorr. This is not a situation he wants to be in. If anything, it's definitely limiting his ability to really build up his army. Meanwhile, we can see that the Swarm hosts are still dying out of range. Okay. A bunch of Hydralisks actually just about to pop. Most of them are... Where are the Hydras? There's only 2. Okay, never mind. It's only the 2 Hydras. These guys are going to come out and get annihilated by the Swarm hosts by the Phoenixes. If Goro is paying attention once again. Tale of Swarm hosts, hands but not a pro, is a tale of missed opportunities, pretty much. Ah, this hurts. Oh, but Enduring Locust is just about to finish! And Enduring Locust does not get applied to Locusts that are already there. I think we learned something, guys. We learned something new. Like I said, keep your eyes open, you'll learn something new all the time. Meanwhile, Protoss has successfully made it up to a 3rd base, has reached 56 workers, more than the 45 of his opponent, has retained an extremely strong economic advantage, but still holds, I think, potentially a compositional advantage if he can get enough Hydras to deal with this. Unfortunately, that's a really scary number of Void Rays. That's reaching ridiculous number of Void Rays. That's close to 16. If he can get over 20, that's kind of like magic number, really, with Void Rays. Kind of like how 40s with Mutalisk just becomes kind of hard to kill, like by almost anything. Yeah, he's getting close to that state. That +2 upgrade actually coming out as well. It's going to be a very formidable army here. What beats Infestors? Well, that's a good question, Mr. Master Q. I would say most compositions will, because a lot of things won't die to the infested Terrans. You just have a lot less flexibility. Really, all you can do with them effectively these days is... Okay, never mind. Hold that thought. Engagement coming up here. Locust actually coming out just as the army shows up. Zealots are notoriously bad against dealing with Locusts, as you can see here, most of them getting annihilated, but here comes the air units, and the air units are fairly good against things that don't shoot up. And there really isn't enough of Hydras to actually deal with this army right here. Tythorr really needs to get out of there. Just run. Run away. Save your Hydralisks. If this was Wings of Liberty, all those Hydras would be dead right now because they wouldn't be able to run fast enough to get away. Now, unfortunately, there isn't much at home to go back to. There's a Queen back here. There's a couple Overlords, I guess, to distract the Void Rays. I'm really grasping for straws here, guys. This is actually looking very, very grim for the Zerg player right now. And, cheese into cheese and thou shalt be cheesed. Such is the way of the StarCraft. And now we're seeing a situation where the Protoss is basically sitting on the rally point and killing everything that comes up. So I think it's pretty much only a matter of time from here. Hydra's about to pop. Surprisingly at bases that aren't that one. Good work on his part. Most of them appearing up here. Still not really enough in the form of defenses. Static defenses against Void Rays are really not that good, like regardless of which race you're looking at. If you get a ton of cannons against a bunch of Void Rays, the cannons will just die really quickly. It doesn't really actually accomplish a whole lot. Maybe they get one shot off, if that. As you can see, Spore Crawler really didn't accomplish much. But yeah, as for the whole Infestor thing, I was thinking about that again. To be honest, it's mostly just because of how expensive they are. There isn't really a lot of flexibility with that playstyle, which hurts. Anyway, Tythorr says lol and GG's. And both players have obtained a probably newfound lack of respect for each other. I don't know. That depends on how you look at it. In any case, GG.